if you go on TikTok or if you go on X, you'll find a lot of videos of women filming themselves as a guy inappropriately came and made a gesture to them and then like publicly shaming them on the internet. It's very popular to do it in the gym.
Yeah.
They set up a phone, they're working out, a guy comes over and asks if they need help with the weights. It then goes viral online because that guy was being inappropriate. Like you shouldn't. So like as a guy, it's quite complicated to know how and where you can roll up without being filmed and going viral.
I know. So we talked about the first dating paradox, which is just the idea that women now need more from men and are raising the bar because they can be providers on their own, but men weren't taught how to do that, and there's sometimes shame for it. So I think the second big dating paradox is that men are expected to lead and to approach, but I truly feel like in a post-Me Too era, it's much more confusing. And so many people say to me, I don't want to meet on an app. That's not romantic. I want to meet in real life. But I'm not finding that people are meeting in real life because people are afraid to approach each other. I think one is being afraid of being called creepy, but the other one, which is what you're talking about, is that this culture of making TikToks or going online with this date-ertainment to talk about how this person approached you or how inappropriate that was. And so I feel like there's a lot of women waiting for men to approach them, but then shaming the men who do. I think one of the solutions there is we should allow people to shoot their shot in a non-creepy way.
Can I just say something to
Yeah.
that? If the guy rolls up and he's 6'4" and he's, gorgeous, it's fine, it seems.
The difference between creepy and romantic is the perceived attractiveness of the person making the overture.
I think that is true. If you are super hot, it's less likely to be perceived as creepy. But you have all these people that are saying, I want to be approached, and they're not being approached. And so there was this rise of run clubs last summer, right? Everyone said the new dating app is the run club. I ask everywhere I go, have you met someone at a run club? No, people are not really meeting there. So since 2017, the number one way that people are meeting is online. Hinge is setting up a date every 2 seconds. This is where the dating is happening. If people want more things to happen offline, they actually have to approach each other. And I'm just not seeing that happen.
But my understanding is the majority of women still expect the man to take the initiative.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the most frightening stats I've seen. According to Pew, more than 50% of men between the ages of 18 and 24 have never asked a woman out in person. And I just find that so just upsetting and rattling, because that means they're either not asking people out or they're asking them out online where, quite frankly, they can't demonstrate any sense of excellence. And I think the beautiful thing about human sexuality is sometimes you don't even know why you're attracted to someone. You like the way they smell. You find out they're funny. And that happens in person. But we need more third spaces, more places people can meet. And also, I actually think it would be helpful to have in the senior year of high school a class called Adulting, where amongst other things, you teach them about the interest rate on a credit card. Little things.
Yeah.
My kid can do integers and he doesn't understand the interest rate on his credit card. And also, quite frankly, I think young men need guidance around how to express romantic interest while making the other person feel safe. And also that if you express romantic interest and ask someone out for coffee and they say no, you're both going to be fine. You haven't committed a crime against humanity. As long as you're respectful and you don't make the person feel uncomfortable. But men aren't even asking women out.
Everything you're saying is what I'm seeing. So I was talking to this incredible 16-year-old girl who built this AI chatbot called Ask Elle, and she's taken all of the relationship science research that she's seen, and she's trained this chatbot, and she's trying to help teens get safe and empowered dating advice. And I asked her, what is the number one question that you're getting? And it's how to ask someone out. And so I think people are really struggling. It's not that teens in all of human history had the secret. It's that they were willing to do it and fail. And now we're just not seeing that. And so I think that we have glossed over the pandemic. It was this really traumatic time, really scary stuff happened, and we don't want to talk about it. But people that came of age during the pandemic, their social skills are worse. They missed out on critical moments of becoming a human. And we are seeing that in the workplace. All of these things about Gen Z, Gen Alpha, that came from something. It came from parenting. It came from digital addiction. It came from the pandemic and online learning. And I think that if you do not have the social skills to approach someone and ask them out, there just will be literally fewer couples.
I want to throw a Molotov cocktail into this and something that's controversial I've gotten pushback on. I think one of the enemies of mating is that there's too little drinking. If you look at Millennials, they spent $30 billion on
Yeah.
alcohol. Gen Z, it's crashed to $2 billion. Peter Attia and Andrew Huberman have declared war on drinking. I think young people need to drink more, go out and make a series of bad decisions that might pay off. I don't see drunkenness, I see togetherness. And I don't know how it was for you in your relationship, but I think of the majority of great friendships I have and the romantic opportunities I've had, not always, but often alcohol played a role. And I worry that with a lack of going out, being out of the house, and also a lack of drinking, that we've taken away a social lubricant that breaks down some of the walls and some of the initial awkwardness and entry into a potential romantic relationship.
I think some of the increase in being sober curious comes from interest in being healthy. So we
Yep.
hear from Gen Z, I don't want to have anxiety the next day. They are much less
And it's
likely.
expensive.
Yeah, they are much less likely to millennials to feel like there's a two-drink minimum for dates. But in general, we're seeing less risk-taking behavior from Gen Z. They are getting their licenses far later, if at all. They are losing their virginity much later, if at all. And so I feel like there's this rise of, or there's this decrease in risk-taking behavior, which in some ways is great. You know, fewer kids dying in car crashes and people being
Less teen
responsible.
pregnancy.
But I just feel like people are missing out on the experience to make mistakes as a young person. And I think when I think back to my college experience, if there had been cameras that have high quality video on them at all times, I would have lived a very different college experience. I am so grateful that Instagram was not there when I was in college. And so if you live in a surveillance culture where at any moment somebody is snapping the room and they could see what you're doing, you're going to take fewer risks. And I just feel like there's this entire culture of people being very safe. And part of dating, part of mating is making mistakes, taking risks, and failing.
So what do we do about it, Logan? Scott gave a really good sort of advice for the young man or the young person who's trying to increase their mating value, their dating value. What advice would you give to a young man about how to be attractive? Because there's going to be a lot of young men listening right now. I imagine from the stats.
First of all, I love
70%.
what Scott said in terms of his advice. And I feel like it's one of those things where the secret to happiness or the secret to success is simple but hard. So it's not like there's infinite things you need to do. It's actually quite a simple plan, but it's quite hard to execute on it. A few things that I would add. So one is I have this friend, Sam Parr. He started The Hustle. He started the podcast My First Million. One thing that he did to make himself more attractive as a mate was he would develop these passions and really talk about them on dates, because he found that women were really drawn to the fact that he was pursuing other activities. So he got really into denim, and he would talk about these denim meets that he would go to, and he found that women were really drawn to that. He's very into the growth mindset and working on himself. He felt like that was something that women were so drawn to, how he was growing. Because if you think about the projections, well, when he met my friend Sarah, he wasn't making any money. She was making a lot more than him. But she could see that he had a great path ahead of him because he was constantly working and improving himself. The other thing I would tell men is, through my research, I found that men think, I need to be perfect. I need to be 6 feet tall. Look, women are not expecting you to fly them to the moon. They want effort. Remember the name of their best friend. Text them when they had a hard meeting and say, how did it go? Plan a thoughtful date. And so I think that you have men over here saying, if I'm not 6 feet tall, I don't have a chance, so why participate anyway? And then you have women saying, in some ways, I just want you to be an effortful, nice person, and I'm not even getting that. And so I think that for men, they can actually get much farther than they think and be better than 90% of men by doing some of these bare minimum things that other men aren't doing. So I have this question that I ask in my book, which is when you're deciding if you should break up with someone. If your partner were a piece of clothing in your closet, what would they be?
Is it my clothes or her
Yeah.
clothes? My
Your
clothes.
clothes.
Oh, okay.
And it really has to be gut reaction. So Scott, if you thought of one, I want to hear it.
I thought of like a black silk shirt. And that's probably because that's where we spend quality time together, is when I'm wearing a black silk shirt. Special occasions, date night, restaurant, make an effort.
Do you feel good in it?
Yeah, of course, I feel my best in it. Yeah.
And do you have one for your wife?
Brunello Cucinelli cashmere V-neck sweater makes me look fantastic, makes me better, and is beautiful.
Yes. And mine for my husband would be this awesome orange robe that I have that represents being at home. I love the orange color that's really bright, and it represents our family time.
Hmm.
So I've asked this question
I
to.
feel shamed. I feel like mine was so
No,
superficial.
no, yours was great.
Cashmere
No,
V-neck
no,
brunette.
no. I think your answer.
Family orange. I feel so shamed.
No, no, no. I think your answer is wonderful. And I actually, in general, find that outerwear answers are very strong because it means that you feel warm around them. It's you at your best.
I
This
just
is your
feel
favorite.
fucking fabulous. I don't know if I feel warm.
That's all that matters. Your answer was great. The answers that worry me are something like a wool sweater that feels good, but then it's itchy, so I take it off. The ratty shirt that I wear to the gym. These are real answers I've gotten. Point is, for years I've been asking people this question. Well, now I want to ask people the question of, if you were a piece of clothing in your closet, what would you be? And I feel like we spend so much time saying, I'm looking for this in a partner. This is the checklist. Well, look in the mirror. Do you have those traits? And so for somebody who says, I'm a ratty sweatshirt and it's not the thing that I would choose to wear, well, then work on yourself. And so I feel like there's a lot of feelings of, I'm going to relation shop. I'm going to look for a partner the way I look for Bluetooth headphones. Well, a lot of that is about breaking people down into these parts. And I feel like we should spend less time thinking about the checklist for a partner and more time thinking about, who am I, and am I somebody who would be chosen?
We've talked a lot about how young men are struggling. Which demographic of women do you find struggle the most as it relates to mating and dating?
So I work with a lot of very successful women, and that's also because I'm expensive to work with, and that's who my clients are. But I have a newsletter where I hear from 85,000 people. And so what I'm hearing is that a lot of women are saying men are intimidated by the amount of money that I make. They say that they're not going to be, but the more successful I become, the more threatened they are. I'm just talking to tons of women, personal friends. I feel like at my house on one side of me and then two sides over are women who are having babies, they call it like single mother by choice, where they literally were just like, I can't find a man and I want to become a mom, so I'm going to do it by myself.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there are just all these great women who are saying, Logan, I'm following your advice. I'm putting myself out there. I do all these things, but they're just not finding partners.
Do you find that the more successful a woman becomes, the more difficult it becomes for her to find a man that will not feel emasculated by her success?
I don't think that there's an exact correlation because it really depends who the guy is. There are guys out there who are like, let's be a power couple. But I feel like there are women who just feel like there's not enough good guys for them. And I'm curious what you think about this, but I live in the Bay Area. I'm seeing so much polyamory. And I think polyamory is interesting. I'm pro polyamory. I like the fact that people are thinking about relationship structures in a new way. 50% of marriages end in divorce. Obviously, our one-size-fits-all approach to marriage isn't working. But I'm also wondering, well, let me tell you the story. I went to this dating event, and the dating event had 5 single women who were great, and their friends were hyping them up. And then there was 2 guys, and they were both polyamorous. And so I wonder, if you're a guy who feels like there's not that many good guys, why should I have to choose? I feel like that's a trend that I'm worried about.
Portia polygamy. If it's never been better to be a very attractive male, but you have so much opportunity, it does not incent good behavior or long-term relationships.
And I work with these guys, and you might think that they're the happiest people in the world. They are having sex. They are getting a lot of attention, but they're suffering from decision paralysis. And these are some of the guys that hit 40, 42, and they haven't gotten married. They don't have kids. And they sort of are like, why would I ever settle down if I don't have to, or I'm going to wait as long as possible? But they don't understand the opportunity cost, which is building a life with someone, having kids. Every year that you wait to have kids is a year that your kids will be alive without you. And so I really feel like these people in the top percentage, yes, they're having a much easier time, but they also have problems because they're having decision paralysis and they're not settling down.
But I would just say, I think the reality though on the ground is that if you're a high status male, you think age is on your side.
And it is.
And because the reality is the math is just unfair to women.
It is.
Because if you're a 30-year-old male making really good money and it, relative, like just not unattractive, at 40, you're going to be even sexier. Your sexual currency goes up.
I do think that there's a point where it starts to go down, and I've seen that with my coaching clients, and part of that is just how the dating apps work, that if you are an attractive woman and you set your age maximum at 40, I do see that those men see diminishing returns after that age.
Well, especially if they haven't ever been in a long-term
Right,
relationship.
then
I think
that
that's
is seen
probably
as a
red
clear
flag.
red flag.
Are we recording? 87% of people don't subscribe on the Clips channel.
Yeah.
Taking liberties. What? Just coming for free and then bouncing. What? 87%? 90% of people on the Clips channel don't subscribe.
That's what it says here.
So I've been doing all this for free. You've been consuming all these clips for free. Listen, we'll make a deal. I'm really going to make these clips amazing, and you're in the Clips algorithm on our show. So can I ask a favor? Please, can you hit the subscribe button? If you've watched more than one before, how about that? If you've watched more than one, first one free, buy one, get one free. The second one, I'm going to have to ask you to subscribe. If this is the first time you've seen a clip on this channel, move along. You don't need to subscribe. But if you've seen one before, please do me a favor, help a guy out, hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much.